Yeah, one thing because last week you mentioned about me muting during the intro. So I muted like Discord, but then I'm like, well, that does nothing because we record on our own end.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, oh, I have to mute my actual mic.
All right. Let me go post some places. Posting all the places. Let's see. Now I just gotta retweet from like 80 accounts, and then we'll be getting somewhere. If only like TweetDeck would allow me to retweet from all of the accounts at once rather than individually. That would be great. But nope. I can only do it one at a time. Feels bad, man. Alright. Over to the Discords. That would be podcast news. So many Discords.
Mm-hmm.
Oh well, let's go. Quick, everyone, switch over.
Doing anything fun for Memorial?
No. I'm working, and then I'll be on vacation next week.
Oh, all right, that works.
But I'm not sure if they're actually gonna give me the holiday off, because they'll probably need me. But who knows? We'll find out over the weekend. I'm hoping I don't have to work, because it's been a shit show like the past 3 weeks. So
Yeah. Timon playing Reaper. That's awesome.
nice. Alright.
I don't mind that comp from them with Mickey on Brigitte and Seagull on Diva.
Yeah, seems like Mickey's gonna be sticking with Brigitte for the most part, unless they're doing
He's, I
straight
mean,
out.
he's showing some roughness, but he's showing a lot of skill with it as well.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Alright, I should be all situated.
Coolio.
I'm trying to find like the right balance for you because like the one week I had you too loud, and then last week I had you way too low. so
So you're like, what level
so
should
I
I
don't
have?
I gave up.
You're just gonna let loud Ednar be loud Ednar.
Well, it's gonna be like an every week thing where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna write down how loud I have Discord. So right now I have it at 50. And then I'll go back later. and then I'll adjust for the next show. That's just how we're gonna do it.
All
Since
right.
since there's not like a manual slider in Discord with the video call. Because I don't think there is. I don't think so. Whatever. I will just deal with it. All right, but if you're ready, we can get the show on the road.
I am ready.
Sounds good. All right, go ahead and mute your mic, and I'll kick in the doohickey, the intro, whatever. All right, starting now.
You are listening to Heroes Never Die, your one-stop spot for all the latest news, Overwatch League results, and mishaps in Overwatch. Here are your hosts, Totemly Drunk and Edinar.
What is up, guys, and welcome to Heroes Never Die, your one-stop spot for all things Overwatch. I am your host, Totemly Drunk, and tonight on episode 112, we are going to celebrate Overwatch's second year anniversary. We'll get ready to curse no one that will be stepping on Overwatch Legos that will be on our floor, more than likely. Some heroes get the Nerf bat, and Brigitte shakes up the entire Overwatch League and its meta, and so much more. But before we can get into the news and introduce you to my co-hosts, I just want to take a moment to thank everyone who is hanging out with us during our live show here tonight on Twitch, and thank all of our repeat listeners. Of course, joining me, as always, is my co-host, here to help break everything down. That is Edinar. Edinar, how are you doing tonight?
I am doing fantastic. I have been playing a lot of Overwatch this past week, especially to get loot boxes for the special events that we will be going through. I may have spent a few dollars on loot boxes as well. And then, I had fun playing in the game night. It was alluded to on Monday. I decided to try and 1v1 Spider as Widowmaker. And I'm giving myself the benefit of the doubt and saying he killed me 15 times to me killing him twice. And that's generous on my side. So,
right.
So, but it was a lot of fun. Had a great time at the game night. So, how has your week been?
Well, it's been kind of hit or miss. I mean, obviously, we have the anniversary event. So, as per usual, well, not as per usual, because I stopped doing this for a while, but since this one, kind of has all of the items, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to drop the $40, I'll get the 50 loot boxes, get that guaranteed legendary additional, loot box, because you get one for logging into the game during the event, and then you get another one if you buy the big loot box bundle. So I did that. I got 9 legendaries out of the 50. With the freebie one, the initial one, I got the Magician Symmetra, and then I got one of the older Zarya skins, one that kind of makes her look like a Power Ranger. I can't remember which event that was from, but that was from the other one that I got in terms of legendary.
I actually lucked out my loot because I bought the 50 plus the one, but my original, I got 2 legendaries. I got the new Hanzo, an old Widowmaker, and then I got a dance emote for Roadhog, I believe it was. So I was like, that was a really good free box. And then it went all downhill.
Absolutely, but we'll talk more about the anniversary event here in a little bit because, not only did we get the event, but we also got a few balance changes that we definitely need to talk about. But let's go ahead and jump into the news from this past week. So definitely a lot going on, guys. Just across the board, we did have the Overwatch charity campaign that was wrapping up, the one that was benefiting Breast Cancer Research Foundation, and Blizzard reached around $10 million in donations from its new Mercy charity skin. And again, 100% of those proceeds are going to the BCRF. And that $10 million is just from skin sales across all of the platforms. That does not count any of the Twitch bits or donations or anything like that in that total. So they're still calculating exactly how much we got in that regard. But bare minimum, that's $10 million going to BCRF. And, with that much, that means that they sold over 666,000 Pink Mercy skins, and that is just absolutely insane. Like, I mean, I know there's what, like 40 million people at this point. Now, granted, not all of those are active accounts per se, but still, that is a huge number, and that is a pretty big feat, especially for charity work.
Yeah, no, that was way more than I expected, honestly. I mean, I bought one, but I remember like the only thing I really can compare it to as far as Blizzard goes is to the pets that they would sell on WoW for charity. And I looked this up. The one of the ones they did was for the tsunami relief out in Japan, and that one sold like 1.9 to 2 million. And for pets, and a skin in Overwatch did 5 times that. So it was a massive number, and that's not taking, like you said, into account any of the Twitch donations, or I don't even think it takes into account any of like the shirts. I mean, I can't imagine that they went through crazy millions of dollars worth of shirts, but I mean, it probably was a hefty amount. So I probably expect this to end up probably near like 11 to 12 million once everything's taken into account. Because I know what Emong on the last day alone did like 36 or 38,000 just in charitable donations just on his last stream. So yeah, no, this was great. That is going to go a long way to helping people. So more the better.
Absolutely. And just talking about Emon for a second, he actually talked to Jeff Kaplan, our dad and savior, Papa Jeff Cap, during his stream, which I thought was pretty cool as well. Praise him. But moving on, guys, not only are we getting Nerf guns for Overwatch, we are also getting Overwatch Lego sets. Now, the details on this are pretty sparse right now. But we do know that LEGO is the latest line to ink some licensing rights to Overwatch products. I can't talk. I'm in for a long night doing 2 shows tonight. So we do not have any release details yet for this particular line, but you can expect that we're going to be getting some build-in sets across various price points. Now, with that being said, I don't know how familiar you guys are with Legos and how damn expensive they can be, but like the tiniest sets usually go for like $12 on Amazon, but then you have sets that go anywhere from like $150 to $300. I know there's some that are even more expensive, depending on how many pieces it is overall, but Edinar, I want to get your thoughts on this. Are you going to be purchasing some Overwatch Legos? Because I know I'm definitely going to be doing that.
Day one, I'm way more excited for the Legos than I am for Nerf guns. I will be buying a good portion. I was reading about all this. I'm like, they're gonna do like Lego payload sets. So like it can be like the payload can be like your base, then you can have the characters around it, not touching, of course. And then I mean, if they were smart, they would make Blizzard World Lego sets.
That would be awesome. We need it.
Because that would be, all right, and not just Overwatch fans, but like WoW fans, HOTS fans, Diablo fans, they would buy that too because it'd be like, it's Blizzard World. And that could be like one of the really expensive ones. But yeah, no, I'm going to definitely buy a good portion of them. I'm very interested to see how they do like individual like characters. Because not every individual character is, made to be Legoized. Is that, I don't know if that's actual term, but to
it is now.
Legoized, yeah, they got Legoized. Like D.Va, like they have a picture of somebody self-made D.Va. D.Va, it's a mech. You can make a mech out of Legos. You can't make Mercy out of Legos. So that would have to be like a figurine type of thing that fits in with it. But how would you incorporate her into a Lego set? Stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. And how fun and like, meme they can get with them. The more meme, the better. Like a little Genji with "I need healing."
Of course.
Something like that would be a lot of fun. But yeah, I'm excited for this. It'll be good. Yeah,
and just talking about Lego for a second, we have seen them branch out a lot in the past. Obviously they've come out with more sets that are focused towards the girls out there. They also have a ton of games as well. They also started doing movies for Lego, so who knows, that could open up the door for a potential Overwatch Lego game or movie. down the road, but I think a lot of that's just going to be dependent on the popularity not only of Overwatch, but how much they're actually selling in regards to the Legos. But I think I would be pretty pissed off if the first like movie that we get that is Overwatch based is Legos. I don't know
The
about you.
exact words going to be out of my mouth was if I get a Lego Overwatch movie before an Overwatch movie, I'd be pretty pissed. I'd still love it, but I'd still be pretty pissed.
Yeah, you would die a little bit on the inside knowing it was
Yep.
only Lego. Which would be a lot less to look at if it was otherwise. But moving on, guys, with the new patch, we also have the introduction of Rialto into competitive play. Now, this map went live after the Overwatch Archives event that was back on May 3rd, but they had disabled it in competitive play momentarily. So as of Tuesday, that map is now on the competitive ladder. It's part of that map rotation. And I actually got a comment from Overwatch developer Scott Mercer on the forums in regards to future plans when it comes to new heroes and new maps. And he says, in the future, our plan is to make new heroes and maps available in competitive play 2 weeks after their initial release. Now, we are just coming off of the introduction of Brigitte into competitive play, and that one they waited quite a bit of time. So,
Yeah.
in your opinion, like, do you prefer, like, a longer cycle introducing these characters or maps who give the season, like, a special feel, or do you think that 2 week cycle is enough for people to really get just a general grasp of, the map or the heroes in particular?
I think 2 weeks is a perfect time for a map. I think 2 weeks is too little for a hero. Because you can get the basics of a map in 2 weeks. You can't get you can't know a character like comprehensively in 2 weeks. You can have a good understanding, but you can't you're not playing them to the best of their ability yet. There's no way you can do that. And every single new character we've gotten goes through nerfs and tweaks and stuff like that. So to put a broken character like that into competitive 2 weeks after they're out is, I don't want to say reckless, but it's just going to cause, everyone remembers how, Anna, when Anna first came out, nobody touched her. So what did they do? They buffed the hell out of her. And it was horrible for everyone. Because then Anna became crazy overpowered, and then they had to nerf her again. This is the kind of things they need to work out before you put someone into comp. Brigitte, she is a little overpowered right now. I wouldn't have wanted her in competitive 2 weeks after she first came out, because no one could deal with her. No one could do anything like that with her. And she's a much simpler character to play. She's not that skillful of a character, but it's the whole thing like that. But map-wise, you can generally get a good idea of a map, and like Rialto, like every time I'm on the map, I'm like, guys, don't push up in front of the first corner there on defense, because they can just literally flank behind us. And it just takes little things like that you do it once or twice, and then you know it. So you may not know all the nooks and crannies, but I like the 2 weeks for Rialto for maps. I think characters need to be long, but I'm not going to complain about it either. More than I already do.
Well, we've already kind of seen what happened with the Brigitte cycle, because she came into competitive, she was overpowered, and then they immediately made nerfs to her, and they didn't go live immediately. So, in my mind, they just ended up over-tuning her way too much, and then she just caused a lot of havoc in competitive. So, I feel like a lot of this is just going to come down to the PTR cycles, because a lot of times what we're seeing is a lot of stuff is getting patched from PTR to live without any adjustments, and it was obvious, Brigitte needed some adjustments. Not just, the shield cone with her shield bash, but also, some of the tweaks that we are seeing, which we will talk about here shortly. So, I feel like no matter what, we're going to be seeing, these periods where something just isn't going to feel right within a release. And more times than not, it will be a hero as opposed to, a new map. So, I'm more cautious when it comes to new heroes just because we've been burned a little too many times with, new designs or reworks, kind of like we saw with Hanzo as well. Seeing as Hanzo completely took over the meta as well after his rework,
Yup.
and how powerful storm arrows are. More on that later. But I don't know. I feel like right now we just need some consistency when it comes to the balancing and just the time of release. I'd much rather see them actually release stuff that feels better position, like balance wise, than what we have been getting, rather than it being like too far on one side compared to the other. Because a lot of times what happens is something comes out, it's overpowered, and then they cut the legs out from underneath them, and then they take it too far, and then they have to like rebalance back to a middle ground.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people probably feel that the same way that we do. Now, part of it also plays into the fact of Brigitte. I'm never gonna say her name right.
Brigitte.
Brigitte. It goes into she's the first real new character that's come on and been like crazy powerful out of the gate. Like Moira was a little bit, she wasn't that popular. I mean, Doomfist definitely wasn't. Sombra wasn't. Anna wasn't. They had to buff her. I'm trying to think if there had been any other new characters since the release of the game. I don't think so. Oh, Orisa. Orisa has never been super popular either. So she's the first one to come out and truly be overpowered. And I think people are immediately now more cautious. If you were to come out and they would put Doomfist in, 2 weeks after they came out, nobody would have cared because nobody was playing Doomfist. Nobody still plays Doomfist, really. So, I mean, it's one of those things where I think in the current meta we're in, people are reading it differently with her. So, but it's kind of a proving point. Like, can't put them in too soon because this could happen, and it did.
Just questions like how long do we really need to find that middle ground? So we'll definitely keep an eye on it. We'll see whether or not their philosophy on this changes, because we have seen them take different approaches to the overall release cycle on both ends of this. But moving on, guys, so a little bit of esports news real quick. We do have the return of the Beat Invitational. This will be its 4th season, and it's weird calling it a season because it's really a 2-day event. It's just a weekend tournament. But this will be taking place on May 28th and 29th, and technically that's not a weekend. It's still a 2-day tournament either way. But we're going to have 8 North American teams competing for a $6,600 prize pool. So the teams involved are mostly all Tier 2 teams that had competed in, like, contenders. We have Envision Esports, we have Energy Esports, which is the San Francisco Shocks Academy team. We have Simplicity, Grizzlies Esports, Last Night's Leftovers, Bye Week, aka Free Win, as we had dubbed them on the back cap, because they were winless. We have No Clout, and then we have the undefeated Open Division team, GOATs, which I believe is Fractal Esports, or just part of that team, if I'm not mistaken. That is a console team turned PC pro team. So all of them will be involved in Beat Invitational Season 4. Now, last season's champions, who also happen to be the Contenders North American champions of Fusion University, aka Philadelphia Fusion's Academy team, they are not returning to defend their title. But this will be casted by ZP and Jason Kaplan. And all of these matches are going to be streamed live over on Beat's Twitch channel, which you can find at twitch.tv/BeatEsports. Now, Ed, I don't know how much you've actually, gotten involved in the Tier 2 scene of Overwatch, but is this something that you're going to keep an eye on, or...?
Yes, this is definitely... I think now becomes, the time of the Overwatch seasons where I start to really pay attention to the secondary scene. Best way I can put it is, all right, I'm a big NFL fan, big football fan. My favorite time in NFL is the offseason. I love the NFL draft more than I actually like football. So that includes, scouting, seeing other teams. This is the type of thing. This is scouting. You're going to go in there, and then you're going to start seeing people that next season, you're going to start seeing them in the Overwatch League. And you'll be able to tell who is going to be coming up. You're like, okay, that guy definitely is going to be on a team. I don't know what team will be interesting to see. So you can kind of scout the prospects. I've watched a little bit of the Tier 2 scene here and there on, Mondays and Tuesdays and stuff like that during the week when OWL wasn't on. But I didn't follow it as much. And I wish I would have, because a lot of these people that are coming in now from the secondary scene, I'm like, I have no idea who you are. And I'm just like, Totem, who's this? Explain them to me. and then you tell me about them. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Or okay, that makes 0 sense. But yeah, no, I like this. I love the casters they have. I really like ZP and Kaplan. I'm surprised they're not in the Overwatch League. So I'm very excited to see both of them casting this as well.
Yeah, in regards to the overall teams in this one, the team to really keep an eye on that I would consider to be the heavy favorites are Envision Esports. So, Energy might make a deep push, but it's Energy, so they typically like meme themselves out, and then they fail in the playoffs. So bear that in mind. But as you mentioned, like we're kind of getting to a point now where we know going into season 2 of the Overwatch League, we are going to be getting expansion teams. Now, however many we're going to get, we don't know. They said 4 to 6. It's going to be somewhere in there. So, there is a good chance that some of these players could be seeing some time, whether it is on a current team or one of these expansion teams. But really, like, anyone is looking to just stamp their claim and, try to get their way into the league in itself. So, I just wish, I wish Blizzard would put more of an emphasis on the Tier 2 scene, because lately on, the Play Overwatch Twitter account, or maybe it's the Overwatch League one, it's one of the two, but on one of them they were doing, reruns of some of the top matches of the week. And it was a mixture of Overwatch League, and it was a mixture of the Contenders games that were happening. And, Contenders, as of now, has completely wrapped up its Season 1 across the 7 regions. But, the problem is, even when the Contenders finals were live, they weren't hosting that channel on the Overwatch streams. So there's just been a lack of advertisements when it comes to the Tier 2 scene, and that's definitely something that Overwatch needs to be weary of, because this is where they're going to be getting a lot of talent in regards to filling out these expansion teams, or just finding some players to come into the Overwatch League on some of these other teams that are already established. So I just want to see them put a little bit more emphasis on getting the word out about what is going on, whether it is Contenders or these other big Tier 2 tournaments like the Beat Invitational. Now, that being said, guys, obviously the big news this week is the Overwatch anniversary. Overwatch is turning 2, I think it's actually tomorrow, is the official birthday, if I'm not mistaken. I know people have already been celebrating this week, just because, the event dropped on Tuesday. And with that, we kind of pretty much already touched on most of the stuff that's coming out, but just a refresher, guys, in regards to what dropped this Tuesday on May 22nd for the anniversary patch. So, obviously, we got the new event. We have Overwatch Anniversary 2018. With that, by logging in, you get a free legendary loot box, which guarantees you a legendary skin. You will also be able to acquire past event items in loot boxes, as well as purchase them with currency. And basically, anything that was released this year is still full price. Anything from last year is at the discounted price for the cosmetics. So keep that in mind. So it's a good chance for you to get that one skin that was elusive to you, regardless of what one it was. We have a new map, which is Petra, which is a free-for-all deathmatch map, which, I don't know, have you been on to check out the new map at all by chance?
Yes, I have, and I have some strong feelings on Petra. I feel slightly imbalanced and favors certain heroes.
Mm-hmm.
Drastically favors certain heroes. If you are not a ranged character, you are basically donezo. Hanzo and McCree are amazing on this map, because if you try and go into the middle, they're just going to sit back and just take you out. It's one of those, I think that I was reading an article today about it, is it's less the map and it's more the mode. Because, it's Moira's awesome in this because she can snipe your kills. So, if you're killing someone, Moira throws in an orb, she gets the killing blow. And you're like, well, Moira did no work except throw an orb out. So, they still run the whole Overwatch, like how it is in comp and stuff like that, in deathmatch. So somebody can take out 99% of the health, and that one person gets the last blow, and then they get the kill, and then they get the extra bonus and stuff like that. I don't know how they can really fix that with the way the game's set up, but I still enjoy it. I have not done my placements yet, though, for
Okay.
competitive.
Yeah, what I will say about the new map is, as someone that played a ton of Quake, out of all of the deathmatch maps, this one feels the most Quake to me because it has like a giant health pack that is kind of in the middle of the map that also has, a floor below it that is destructible, which is like uh, a new design in terms of like the maps outside of like railings or anything like that. The floor in this one you can actually shoot and break off, which is really cool because we haven't seen that yet in Overwatch. There is also there's some jump pads as well,
Mhm.
just like you would see over on Oasis. So, there's definitely parts of the map that favor range. There is stuff that favors short range heroes. There's a lot of open space. But I found, like, the best luck I've had so far on the new map has been on Roadhog. And I know Roadhog is pretty strong overall in free-for-all deathmatch just because he does have a lot of survivability and, the damage reduction when he takes a breather. But, you're also able to land those hooks to pull people down into the pit and things like that. I tried playing Pharah, which has typically been my kind of go-to for FFA DM. Did not work so well, but for the most part, I've seen a ton of McCree and Roadhog in regards to that map. I feel like that map doesn't offer as much flexibility in regards to meta picks, I would say, compared
Yeah.
to Chateau overall. But I am really enjoying the map. Now, there's definitely parts where I feel like I get more value out of certain heroes, but I feel like that's pretty much the case with just about any map out there. But I haven't done all of my placements in regards to the new competitive mode, which is free-for-all deathmatch. And, you brought up an interesting point in regards to, the kills in this particular mode. I wonder how much they weigh assists because that it also is part of the scoreboard in FFA DM. But I want to say I did 4 or 5 matches. I got top 4 in 2 of them. But that mode in particular, especially in that type of ranking system, really tilts me. Like I don't feel it as I feel a lot more pressure in competitive than I do when I'm just playing in the arcade. And with how few characters we're actually seeing on Petra so far, it heightens that much more. So I'm being cautious and not trying to do too many competitive matches in regards to FFA DM. Now, if I got Chateau more in the rotation, I would probably play it more, but Petra has kind of been the primary one altogether. But not only did we get a new map and a new competitive mode, but we also got some balance changes that we need to talk about. These are ones that we did see on the PTR. Some a little bit longer than some of the others, but let's look at Ana. So, Ana's projectiles now pass through allies that are at full health. So, let's say you were running, let's say triple tank, for instance, and your Roadhog, being the big body that he is already at full health. Well, now if there's a Reinhardt that's taken some damage ahead of him, it'll just hit the Reinhardt instead. So, this is a huge change overall for Ana, and they also increased the biotic rifle ammo from 10 to 14. So, you got a bigger magazine size for your rifle, which is pretty cool. Not so great if you were a Pharah player, which I found out pretty quickly in free-for-all deathmatch, so that kind of sucks, but a pretty big change overall for Ana, and, I don't know if it's enough to really bring her back into the forefront in terms of the pick rates, but she does feel a little bit better, but I'm curious to see the adjustment in regards to having that extra ammo, if that is going to kind of alter the sequences with her attacks for the Ana players out there.
Well, I mean, I can see her getting more playtime, especially because, I mean, like you said, it's not fun for her being fair with her these changes. So, who does fair counter? What new character? Oh yeah, forget that. And so like it could be one of those things. Well, it would playing Ana could maybe hold back Pharah a little bit because nobody likes Pharah. No, no tank player likes Pharah. So I'd be all for that. I mean, think you're gonna start seeing more, um, both in our meta and Overwatch League meta. Regardless, I still think she's a very strong healer, and I think it's going to start moving more towards her direction, hopefully sooner rather than later, because she is definitely one of the more skillful healers in the game, like high skill ceiling, not like flail, shield bash, flail. So I really hope that these come through unchanged. The only other thing that I could see, and this is not really a quality of life thing, but the healing dart.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody has healing immunity, it bypasses them too. So, like, let's say they throw a healing dart on, someone like on a Roadhog. Well, it can't heal them, so why would it hit them with the healing dart? Go through them if they have healing immunity and go to the next person. I know it's nitpicky and it wouldn't make that big of a difference, but it's just something I'm like, well, that would be really cool if it had that effect. So that's just me.
All right, moving on to our next hero. Another one we've been talking about a lot on this show, being Brigitte. So, as I mentioned, like, we've already seen a few different nerfs to Brigitte. This one being the better of the two, and the much more needed of the two compared to the cone angle. So Brigitte's rally max armor per player was reduced from 150 to 100. Then he also increased the shield bash cooldown from 5 seconds to 6 seconds. Now, rally was very potent. Getting to see those 350 HP Zenyatta's, like, Jonak in the Overwatch League being an absolute nightmare. He's already hard enough to deal with already. We don't need him to have that much more armor on top of that and give him a bigger overall effective health pool. But, a lot of times we saw Rally kind of being used pre-fight. So then whoever had Rally would basically have the advantage going into the next fight.
Yeah, I mean, Rally, insanely powerful. 150 armor on a character is insane. Especially, like you said, someone like Jonak on Zenyatta, or really any DPS, like any squishy, like even your McCree's, your Widows even. Like, I mean, a Widow versus Widow duel, it's gonna be a lot harder to win when that person has 150 more armor on them. So yeah, it's just overall it's a good nerf. It's one of the few that needed to be done to her to make her come back down to earth.
Yeah, and then looking at the shield bash going from 5 seconds to 6 seconds, like, I haven't played a ton of Brigitte, but what I have noticed is when I have played her, it feels like I always have shield bash available when I need it in that moment. So I don't really think like 1 second is going to be like a huge difference maker overall, but it will mean, like, let's say you are a Roadhog player, for instance, because it's something that I saw happening in FFA DM when I was playing him. I was able to bait out the shield bash a lot easier, knowing that it had that extra cooldown duration. So I baited it out, and then I was able to get my breather out after. So I wasn't really too worried about having to get, stunned when I'm trying to heal myself and then get bursted down. So that's definitely going to be a nice change. And it just means, like, Brigitte won't be able to get back to the point as quickly. In regards to, like, if you get staggered or just have to run to somewhere, since you won't have as much duration across, like, a minute period as you would prior, just because you're not traveling the same amount of distance, since you have to wait a second longer each time. But I'm hoping, like, this is going to bring Brigitte more in line with the other supports, because she basically came out and then she overtook everyone in regards to the pick rates on the support line, so I'm curious to see whether or not between the Ana changes and Brigitte changes, if that's going to balance out the other supports. But for the most part, like, I would say, based off of what I've seen, I feel like the support pick overall has started to be a lot more even than we've seen in the past, just across the board.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. The overall support scene is very healthy right now. It's the fact that Brigitte is not truly a support. She's not being played often as a support. She's being played as a support and a tank. And I think that's where it gets confusing because you're seeing like a more balanced pick rate between all of them because people are picking 3 supports instead of the normal 2. They're picking the 3 supports, but they're only going 1 tank. That's why you're starting to see a more fluctuation in tank picks. You're starting to see more Zaryas or Reinhardts, depending on the situations.
Or both.
Or both. But like if they're picking, going 3 support, you're generally probably going Reinhardt. You're seeing, less D.Va, less Winston because, well, especially less D.Va, if memory serves me, because if they're going, Brigitte and a tank, they're not going D.Va as the main tank. Because that would not work well. But I think that's why you're seeing the better support, and I like it. I like the overall continuity of having 3 supports, one playing like. I like the role she fits. I like the role of off tank, off support. It's a matter of getting people to realize that's what she is. It's getting people to realize, no, she can't solo heal. No, she's not going to be good with just one other support. That's not what she's built to be. It's like, you don't want her and Lucio to be the only 2 healers because that's just going to go badly.
Yeah, I feel like you can kind of get away with it if you pair her with the Mercy as like the other support. But for the most part, it has been triple support. For the most part, across the board.
Yeah, it's been triple support. I mean, because it's a lot of it is being picked as Mercy and Zenyatta, and when you combine Zenyatta and like the flexibility that they bring, like Zen is half heal, half DPS. So like you're with all 3, you're bringing like 2. All 3 combined, you're bringing 2 serious healers, but on top of those 2 serious healers, you're bringing an extra half a DPS and an extra half a tank. So you're just offering more flexibility that route. And I think that's what you're seeing a lot of. But Mercy, if you're only going 2 healers, Mercy's probably the one you want to go with, just because you need a more dedicated healer.
Absolutely. Well, we do have one more balance change. This one is to Hanzo 2.0, aka Hanzo, because he's so overpowered right now, and that is in regards to his Storm Arrows. And his Storm Arrow damage has been reduced from 80 to 70. Now, talking about what we have seen lately, on the ladder, we've seen a lot of damage boosted Hanzo play. Mercy is pocketing the Hanzos. Hanzo is popping Storm Arrows, and he's hitting for 200 a shot, basically, and just deleting everyone in the game. I mean, there's no other way to put it. The burst potential of Hanzo, after the rework, was overtuned. That is why Hanzo had seen a huge spike in play across all tiers of the ladder. And, you basically, regardless of, if the dive meta was dead, you could not run Tracer against a Hanzo. Doesn't matter if there was a Brigitte out on the field or not, just because one shot and you were gone. There was literally nothing you can do. And I don't care how good you are at juking with the blinks or managing your recall, chances are, out of those 6 shots, you were going to get hit.
Yeah,
and die.
Going to connect.
So, hopefully this is going to back Hanzo off a little bit. I'm not going to say it's the death of that character, but he has definitely made a huge impact on the current meta. But I don't think this is going to see a huge spike in Hanzo overall, but I feel like we're still going to be seeing a ton of these spam compositions, whether it is, Junkrat Hanzo, still seeing a lot of Pharah, and to an extent Widowmaker as well, but now it's just not going to be as potent in regards to the burst damage overall, but I still feel like regardless, I think Hanzo is still going to be a better pick compared to McCree in this instance, just due to the new roles that he kind of fits.
Yeah, I mean, I personally don't think that this is a big enough nerf. I know they said when they nerf his damage, they also nerf his ability to get his ult quicker. I think he'll still be able to get his ult just as quick. And that's another big problem of theirs. But the burst potential is the biggest problem. And, being able to burst instead of I think it comes down to if it's a headshot, 140 instead of 160. Yeah, that's still a lot of damage. A lot of damage that they're going to be pumping out onto you with each shot. It's still going to break shields left and right. I mean, I it needs to be nerfed more or tweaked more. Whether that is don't make it a full each one a fully charged arrow, something like that. But just nerfing the damage of by 10 per arrow is not going to do enough to really make that big of a difference in my mind. I still think he's going to be a must pick regardless, because I mean you still see like you said, having a mercy pocket a Hanzo is the new hotness, and a mercy boost in a Hanzo will still be the hotness because there's no counter to him right now.
Another Hanzo.
Yeah, it's basically comes down to, hey, are you better than their Hanzo? Like that is basically comes down to how if you're gonna win the match.
Yeah, that was very evident in our game night as well. Like I'll be honest, like I was getting frustrated because we saw Hanzo on both sides in pretty much every game that we saw, and the people that do play a ton of Hanzo were the ones always picking Hanzo. So pretty much in every game we had a very damn good Hanzo, and that basically decided every single game, regardless of what the teams were.
Mm-hmm. And that's how comp is right now. I mean, that's basically like, all right, who has the better Hanzo? And then, you know, who has the better counter to Hanzo if both are not that good? Because the majority of the time, like Diamond, you're playing Hanzo, you're good, but you're not great. So it's like, who has the better Hanzo and who has the better counter to Hanzo? And there's no true counter to Hanzo, except maybe a fair. I mean, he is range, but even range, it's annoying and hard to hit a moving fair with a projectile like that. So yeah, it's frustrating. I hope I'm wrong that these changes aren't enough, but it's a good start. We'll go with that.
Absolutely. Well, switching gears to the Overwatch League, we did get a new statement coming out of the Shanghai Dragons camp. And, you know, the Dragons, you know, right now, regardless of what their record is, they are the internet darling of the Overwatch League. You know, they are winless in their first 32 matches going into Stage 4 Week 2. And, you know, they might have an imperfect season in Overwatch League. There's a legit chance this team can go 0-40. They currently hold the longest losing streak in professional sports history, which is a record that they have been breaking pretty much every week for the past, 3 weeks at this point. And keep doing so since they still haven't won. But this is, the second time that the community has kind of, found themselves raising a lot of questions, and it's due to the training schedule that this team has. Now, their team manager, Yane Van, took to Twitter. This was actually, a TwitLonger post, so, he could get all of his thoughts out in regards to what exactly is going on with the team. And he says that we have the most intensive training scheme among all of the teams ever since we arrived last December. Our daily schedule starts at 10:30 a.m. as we leave for training facilities and return to our houses around 10:30 to 11 p.m., with a possible training extension to midnight. We train 6 days a week with 1 day off. During mid-stages, we have 3 to 4 days off, depending on other team schedules, and if we have scrims with them. Now, this is a curious thing, because they got rid of, their controversial coach due to the training schedule that they had. And based off of this,
what was their old training schedule?
It doesn't sound like it changed at all. Obviously, player health has been a huge issue. We have seen a lot of players having to take time off, whether it was just due to being homesick, or playing with not wanting to play with an injury, or not being in the right mental state, or things like that. The strict schedule, regardless of how long it's been going on, clearly has not been helping in regards to their performance overall. Now, do you think this is more of an issue with Okay, let me rephrase this. Like, do you think it's a bigger issue when you compare, like, the stress levels it comes with, losing that many matches in a row compared to, say, the amount of hours that they're putting in to try to improve their play as a team? Like, do you think it leads on one side more than the other, or is it just, like, a collective, like, suffocating feeling for the Dragons players at this point?
Well, I think at this point, the Dragons players think, like, how can we win a game? We just need to practice harder, play better, practice, practice, practice. More practice will make us better. And in reality, that's not helping. That much practice is not healthy for anyone to be doing. But they're desperate for that win. So I don't think this is bothering the players right now. Like the practice schedule, because they don't have a win and they have that mentality is we need to do whatever we can just to get that win. And so they're willing to put up with these, insane training schedules. So that in their mind, they're giving everything they've got to get that win. Because if they aren't doing that and then they still don't get a win, then they're like, well, we weren't practicing enough or stuff like that. But the teams that are actually winning, I guarantee you they're not practicing like this. We would have heard about stuff like this. Do you think the Houston Outlaws are practicing 6 days a week, 10 plus hours a day? Yeah, probably not. I mean, you see them on social media going out and doing all sorts of random stuff every day.
Yeah, they have to go promote T-Mobile.
Yeah, they have to, go get T-Mobile. Like Custa from the Valiant has to take shoots, photo shoots with popsicles. That was a good one today, and stuff like that. But they're not practicing as much. But the thing is they don't need to practice that much because they don't feel the pressure to win as much as Shanghai. Like, yes, they want to win, but it's not like we just don't want to go, undefeated in the wrong way. Like they don't want to go winless through all stages, so they're going to give everything they got no matter what to try and get that win, and they're justifying it because they don't have that win, and it's not healthy.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about some things that the Dragons could do in regards to improving their play a little bit later in our takeaways from this past week in the Overwatch League. But speaking of the Overwatch League, we do have an update on the London Spitfire, and this has definitely been a pretty big talking point amongst the esports community, because there's a lot of people that were questioning why they even released this statement. And they've actually set 4 of their current players as inactive on their roster. Now, the players in question include Hagopen, Uhail, Hureg, and Tizzy. Now, Hagopen, Uhail, and Hureg, they were part of the Apex Season 4 champions, GC Busan. That was a team that won Apex Season 4 in their first qualification after qualifying through Apex Challengers, and that was dubbed like the Royal Road. That is the only time that has happened in the Korean Overwatch scene. Might be the only time we actually see that happening. But, Tizzy, he was signed from Runaway, which is another one of those #forever second teams that can never seem to win a tournament because they always finish second, much like Reunited did way back when, or E-United, or Reunited, or whatever what their damn name was at the time, because it changed so often, depending on whether or not they were sponsored at the time. But this was back in March, and he hasn't seen play for the Spitfire this season since getting picked up. And, despite very early success for the London Spitfire, having won Stage 1, they came in 3rd place in Stage 2, but, they hit kind of a rough patch in Stage 3. The team finished in 6th place last stage, and they're currently, right now, still in a run-in for the end of season playoffs, because right now they're in 3rd place, and right now it's basically like they are trying to right the ship at this point. Like, they don't want to go into the end of season playoffs in this rough stretch because obviously that is going to lessen their chances at actually advancing in the playoffs. So they're trying to whittle down the roster a little bit and work on a core, 6, 7 players, whatever. But a lot of people are like, well, why would you even say anything? Why not, just say that? Well, why even release a statement? Just have them on the bench. And I've seen both kind of viewpoints on this matter. Obviously, like right now, London feels like they need to turn things around. Like they know who's going to be playing over the other counterparts, and they have a stronger feeling about certain players over others. And it's kind of a weird thing because right now, Fury is injured for this team. That is their D.Va player. And, we have seen some pretty good play out of Fuhail on the D.Va overall. So, that's kind of like raised a red flag. So what's going to happen, like, if someone gets sick or they can't play due to whatever issue? Like, there's just a lot of uncertainty right now. But regardless, like, London feels like they're in a position where they need to put their best foot forward. And this is their way of going about that. They're basically taking 4 pieces out of their puzzle and are looking to focus on the remaining players. And I know Susie Kim had a very good response in regards to the decision making in regards to this specific matter. So that is over on the Competitive Overwatch Reddit. I will have that linked in the show notes. Definitely check that out because she gave a really detailed reasoning behind that. And obviously this was not an easy decision for the London Spitfire organization, but I want to get your thoughts on this. So obviously, like, we have seen teams enter the league with different viewpoints in regards to managing their rosters and roster sizes. The Mayhem came in, they only had 6 players, and that didn't really work out so well. I mean, even with the additions that the Mayhem picked up later on, regardless of how good Saya player is, it hasn't really improved the record. I think that's safe to say. Granted, his Widowmaker has been freaking amazing, but they haven't seen as impressive as we would have hoped, given the newer pieces. And we've seen other teams really adapt their expanded rosters better than other teams, like, say, Boston in some cases, not so much lately, or the New York Excelsior. So do you feel like having a smaller roster is going to pay dividends for London, knowing that they have kind of hit this rough patch in their play as of late?
I mean, having a smaller roster, these guys weren't playing anyway. So not having them on the active roster is not going to do anything to the team except put them in a tighter spot. I mean, they have what? They'll have 7 people on their active roster right now, so they'll have 1 floater essentially, and gotta help them if somebody gets hurt, or more than 1 person gets hurt, or something happens. Because I don't know if you can move them from being like, that's another thing we don't know is if you can move from inactive to active back and forth. But there's literally no point in putting them on inactive because it's not like they can go and sign with another team and play with them this stage. Even go sign with another team. Like they're on the Spitfire till the end of their contract, which is, I'm assuming, the end of the season.
Right.
So regardless whether they're active or inactive, they're on the London Spitfire. Who cares if they're inactive or active? I mean, I guess maybe you would list them as inactive so people aren't wondering if there was an injury, like, well, why isn't this person playing? Why isn't this person playing? And that way people know, but that hasn't come up yet. And probably won't, like, odds-wise, 2 people going down is not very likely. But if that's the case, then you can say, no, they're actually inactive and we can't play them. And that's when you say it. This is just kind of not a slap in the face to the players, but more of like we don't want you on the team so much. We're willing to risk not having enough people just to not have you on the team. Like, it shows how little the London Spitfire actually want them on the team. To basically say, well, we want to go from 11 people down to 7 because we just don't want you 4 on our team. And I don't like the way that players are treated like that. Now, maybe there's some other stuff going on that we don't know about, which is always quite possible, and we may never know. But it's, to me, this just seems like the team's trying to get ahead of something, and we don't know what it is. So this seems weird. London is, like you said, not performing that well. They haven't won yet this stage. They haven't looked like themselves since stage 2. It's just they're in a downward spiral. It's just sort of like they're not horrible, but they're just not themselves. So maybe this can be used as motivation for the other players, maybe, but I don't get this decision at all.
Yeah, for me, I feel like I don't think it was necessarily time to hit the panic button for London, and I know like their stage 3 didn't really work out so well, but they weren't in dire straits like what we had seen out of like Dallas Fuel, for example, where they couldn't buy a win off of anyone outside of Shanghai. So it's really weird to kind of like look at it like I don't know if it's so much you're like, okay, like you're just not seeing playtime, so we're gonna move you as an active, but I I don't know how the players take it, because I could definitely see it where maybe they'll see this as, okay, like, maybe they feel like we're just not going to be able to have a good show in if I'm in the starting lineup. And, like, for me, like, when I look at the 4 players in question, for Hagopen, like, he's a good Zenyatta player, don't get me wrong, but they have Bogosian in their starting lineup, who is really second only to JJoNak. I mean, really, everyone is second to JJoNak in this case, because JJonak's by far the best Zenyatta in the league right now. But Wuhail, he's done some pretty good stuff on the tank line. Hurig's been pretty inconsistent, but for Tizzy, like, Tizzy hadn't seen play, despite getting picked up kind of later in the season, and, like, he's the only one out of the 4 that I'm like, okay, like, I don't see it as much of an issue if he's moved to an active, just because if they feel like they're in must-win territory, that basically meant that they weren't going to put Tizzy in because maybe they wouldn't have felt that he was ready to be put into that sort of position. So he's really like the only one that I could see that really being the case for. But it's been a really interesting discussion just amongst the community right now. So I am cautiously optimistic in regards to how this is going to work out for London. But as a Seoul Dynasty fan, guys, the way I look at this is that is 3 players off of the roster that Seoul cannot beat. So our chances of winning just skyrocketed. So who knows? Maybe this is going to be the moment that Seoul Dynasty takes one back from London after having snapped, that map losing streak the last time they faced. But
so you're saying there's a chance?
There's always a chance, regardless of what the record might say otherwise.
Right.
But, if you listen to Overwatch League Network, you probably already heard my thoughts on that match. And that was before the news hit, so who knows? Maybe my viewpoints might have changed since Monday. But moving on, guys, let's talk about the other news that is going on as we go around the league on this week's Overwatch League news. So, if you have the All Access Pass, which hopefully you guys bought, you now can get your away skins in-game. You still have to go on a Twitch and redeem the skins, so they will show up on your Battle.net account, but, with the All Access Pass, you do get your 12 new Overwatch skins. All of them are away skins, so they are primarily white. They do have, like, the respective team's primary color, regardless of, what team it was. 12 skins in all. And if you haven't purchased the All Access Pass, well, one, I don't know why you would wait this long to kind of figure out if you want it or not, because obviously if you purchase it now, you're not going to be getting the same value as you would have in the past, just because there's still like a little bit of time since the free trial for it. But if you don't have it, it costs $30 unless you have Twitch Prime, in which case it will cost you $20. And of course you get emotes and the skins.
Mm-hmm.
And the behind the scenes stuff like the player interviews, things like that. But I want to get your thoughts on how they are actually handling the away skins. Do you feel like away skins are primarily going to be bundled into the All Access Pass, or do you think like in the future this could be something that we see worked into The token system for the Overwatch League, where you can buy them in game.
I think, all right, so the away skins are 100% not as cool as the Overwatch League skins that we have in game right now, unless you really like white. Like, if you really like white, like, all white skins, the away skins are for you. I don't think they're going to put them at the Overwatch League. I think these will be the all access skins for the future. I can't see people really wanting, like, they're cool skins, yes. Will I equip any of them? Probably not. Just because you can't, like, looking at them and glancing, you can't really tell. Like, if you look at Winston's, like, skin, you can't tell looking at him, like, oh, wait, okay, that's a gladiator skin because you see a little purple on him. Like, it's not obvious. And it doesn't stick out like, let's say, for instance, a Mayhem skin will, or a Soul skin, or a New York Excelsior, or Fusion, or something like that. These are not the flashy skins people. So I like them. I think they're going to stick with the all access pass because there's already too many Overwatch League skins, and there's going to be more now with more teams coming in. So I think they would be asking too much of people to also spend money on these skins on top of all the other Overwatch League skins, and then all of the new teams that will be coming in. I think that's just a bit much. I like them though. I mean, for the $20 to get from me because I have Amazon Prime. This is like the tipping point of, okay, this turned in from I'm gonna get this because I'm a big Overwatch League fan to, all right, this is an awesome deal. Like, this makes the $20 worthwhile. Like, I would buy this many skins for $20, regardless really of how they like may look or how you feel about them. It's 12 free skins. Like, who isn't going to take 12 free skins? And so, yeah, I like them. I think the only thing I want to say is, honestly, I didn't know I had to go and redeem them on the Twitch page. So I actually just did that now. But, like, I wish they kind of made that a little more clear. Because, like, you get, like, you actually get a lot of stuff for this.
Right.
Like, you get, what, 4 skins? No, 16 skins now. No, 15. And then you get some sprays. And then you get emotes and stuff like that. So, but you have to redeem it all while you're on Twitch. It doesn't automatically come. And I think they can be a little clearer on that. And then next season, they can give out different away skins for different teams. Like, you can get the Houston Outlaw away Widow skin for a Lynxer or something like that. So they have endless opportunities to keep going with this. So I think they're going to stick. Do you think they're going to stick with the away skins?
I think that's definitely the route they're going to go. Maybe with Season 2, maybe the expansion teams will be included in those 12 away skins. But for me, like, kind of like going back to whether or not I would actually equip the white skins, I feel like the only reason that people would actually equip these is if they're doing, like, an RP wedding when they ship characters. Like, what other instance is someone being like, you know what, this skin looks pretty baller, like, I need to equip it right now. I don't know.
Now,
Maybe
I
I'm the
will
only one
say
thinking that, but,
there are
I
a
just...
couple that are pretty cool.
Right.
The Jonak Zenyatta skin is pretty cool. I like that.
Alright, well, moving on, guys, we do have some LA Valiant news in regards to new sponsorships, because they did get 2 in the past week, one that had dropped earlier today, which I'll also talk about even though it's not in the show notes. But first up, they are now sponsored by the gaming peripheral brand Razer. So the sponsorship deal is part of a larger partnership with the Immortals Esports organization, which is... the organization that owns the LA Valiant. They are planning on doing local events as part of this partnership, but no details have been revealed in regards to that. And then earlier today, we saw a tweet sent out from OtterPops who says that game face is on, freezer's packed. We're excited to announce our partnership with the LA Valiant and Immortals. So that is 2 partnerships in 1 week for the Valiant after Ash vs. Evil Dead got canceled. Now, granted, Stars still sponsors the team, mind you, but it's still more money coming in for the Overwatch League and the LA Valiant. And you were kind of talking about Otter Pops earlier. Is that actually a brand that you buy?
Yeah,
Because
I totally.
I had never heard of them, to be honest.
Costco, greatest
Okay.
store on earth. Costco, they sell them. So yeah, go buy some Otter Pops and support the LA Valiant by getting those frozen Wonder Joys. I am a sucker for these things. Like, I am such a sucker for these things. It just makes me feel like a 5-year-old all over again. Just like coming home, being like, "Oh, Mom, can I have a push pop?" And then they bring one of these out. Or when you buy them, but then you have to stick them in the freezer, and it takes like 24 straight hours for them to freeze, and you're pissed off the entire time waiting for them to freeze.
You feel like your life is over at that point.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. I die a little on the inside when I can't get it right away.
All right, so more money coming in for the Valiant with their sponsorships. And we do want to talk about something that happened last week in regards to one of the matches, which was in a match between Philadelphia Fusion and the Boston Uprising. So, Boston Uprising's regular season win streak was put on a line when they opened up their Stage 4 against the Fusion. And, Uprising had not lost since Stage 2, Week 3, when they had lost to the London Spitfire back when Spitfire were actually doing good. And they had went on to win 14 consecutive matches going into the Stage 3 playoffs. Now, we kind of saw how that play out. They got past the Gladiators in what they considered to be their warm-up match, which is why they picked, the Gladiators, much to the dismay of the LA crowd. And, both LA teams kind of got stomped and swept. We also have that happened. But they did fall short to the New York Excelsior in the stage finals. But in this series, we got to see the Overwatch League debut of Sado because, he was just coming off of his 30-game suspension for account boosting. And obviously, we've seen a few suspensions from account boosting, but his was by far the most severe, especially when you compare it to, like, OGE for Dallas Fuel, for instance, who only had, like, 3-4 games for his. Now, granted, Sado's was different because of the amount of time that he was doing it and just the position for the booster that he was on in regards to that organization. But he came in and he was basically like, you have Fraggy, who is hyper aggressive, right? That's what he's known for, going full Fraggy. And then you have Sado, who is more passive and actually stayed alive and was much easier to heal. And it offered a lot of composure for the Fusion, and, it still opened up a ton of space, despite being a little bit more passive, and we just saw their DPS really come in and make the most of it, and obviously, having that presence on the front line paid huge dividends for the Fusion. They ended up snapping the Uprising win streak by winning that one 3-1. So, Boston had all of that momentum. They looked to rebound after losing the finals. And then Sado just comes in and he's like, "Yep, we're our goal is to go 10-0." That's what he said. That was their plan for the stage. Fusion is coming out swinging with this train. So, obviously we saw Sado. We saw a little bit of Fraggy, only for one map though. But seeing what we have seen so far, do you feel like Sado is going to be the main tank moving forward for the Fusion? Are we going to see a healthier mix between him and Fraggy in their tank rotation?
I definitely think Sado is going to be the tank from here on out. I think he's proven that in both maps, because it wasn't just this game that they did well. I mean, the other match they played, they looked dominant in that too. We'll get into that later, because we'll get into their mayhem match later. But it's one of those things where Sado just gave them a whole new tempo, like you said. He gave them a whole new outlook, and it wasn't reliant on, let's say, as much Carpe and the DPS really shining. Even though they do shine, it's less reliant on them really shining bright. Whereas with Sado, he kind of allows them to set up so they don't have to make those crazy plays to really win. Like they could set up and play it properly, and then you're starting to see how like they could properly play as a team instead of like, all right, we're gonna go in on one. Oh crap, Fraggy's already in there. Like, like Fraggy, don't jump in on one. We have to count to 3 first.
Mhm.
You know, so like, and then they kind of go into panic mode, which has worked well for them. But I think this will work even better for them because they looked in both matches last week. They looked just dominant, and it kind of goes without saying. And I quote, correct me if I'm wrong, but the one map they lost last week was when they had Fraggy.
That is correct.
So I mean, and this is nothing against Fraggy because Fraggy is a good tank. And any team would probably be super happy to have him as their main tank. It's just Sato is just fits with the team so much better.
Yeah, and
Like-
part of that though is just due to the fact that even though he was suspended, he was still with the team the entire time, so he's still able to get in the reps, really.
Yeah, so he had like a whole stage to just practice with them instead of just jumping in, having a week to practice with them and going in there. So he's basically been playing them since the end of stage or beginning of stage 3, essentially, is kind of how I see it. And yeah, he did a great job, and this is working out real well for the Fusion. So having him in there has been real good for the Fusion.
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and take a look back at what went down in Stage 4, Week 1 this past week in the Overwatch League. So on Wednesday, we saw the LA Gladiators open up Stage 4 with a win over the San Francisco Shock. That was with the score 3-1. We had the LA Valiant defeat Seoul Dynasty 3-2. Dallas Fuel picked up a win over the Shanghai Dragons 3-1. On Thursday, Philadelphia Fusion defeated Boston Uprising 3-1. New York Excelsior 3-0'd Florida Mayhem, and the Houston Outlaws came in swinging, sweeping the London Spitfire 4-0. On Friday, we saw LA Gladiators defeat Dallas Fuel 4-0. Houston Outlaws defeated Boston Uprising 3-1. The San Francisco Shock defeated Seoul Dynasty 3-1. And on Saturday, we saw Philadelphia Fusion 4-0 Florida Mayhem. The Los Angeles Valiant defeated Shanghai Dragons 3-1. And then New York Excelsior closed it out, defeating the London Spitfire 3-1. So, going back to Shanghai, as we mentioned, they are currently 0-32. They faltered against, a struggling team in the Dallas Fuel again. So, this is a team that are still trying to pick up their first win. Obviously, there are softer opponents in regard to their schedules, and the Fuel, I feel like a lot of people would consider them to be one of their better opportunities to pick up that first win. And it doesn't matter, how many changes we've seen out of the Fuel's camp lately. The Fuel really haven't been in a position where they have looked spectacular going into a series against the Dragons. But there is a bright side, kind of, in the sense that when the Dragons faced the Valiant came in, and in one of the maps, they opted to run their B squad, essentially. We saw Numlocked come out for the first time, making his Overwatch League debut, and the Dragons did win the map. Now, that's important to note just because if they had lost to that Valiant squad in particular, the discussion by the community would have been a lot worse in regards to their mindset and exactly whether or not they belong to be in the Overwatch League. Now, that being said, I feel like right now the support line is really the biggest question mark. We did see them kind of opt to run Damon in regards to their DPS line, regardless of how good Otto has looked in the past. And Damon's just kind of looked a little bit lackluster since getting picked up from the Contenders region. Now, I feel like for the Dragons right now, we just need to see them stick to running Altering and Sky on a support line. I feel like overall, that is their strongest support duo, and Altering has the highest healing throughput in the league, and I know a lot of that is just due to the fact that, the Dragons take a lot of damage, so it's a little bit skewered in that regard, but his play has been a lot better compared to the other supports on this lineup, and I feel like Like, looking at Free Feel, or as Twitch chat kind of has dubbed him, Free Kill, for a lot of reasons, his ult usage on the Zenyatta hasn't been good. Sky, despite, some early struggles, he has shown a lot of improvements in regards to his positioning, and I feel like in regards to that flex support role, he has been the stronger of the two. So I just like to see them shore up their support line and give us a consistent look, just because 5King and Free Feel have been not as impressive. Like, I don't feel like they are up to par in regards to the rest of their team, so I just feel like if they kept with Sky and Altering, we would see a bit more consistency coming out of Shanghai in these upcoming matches. So hopefully they can figure out what exactly they want to do in that regard. But I think until that happens, it's going to be a bit of a rough patch. But definitely we need to see Otto and Dia as the DPS, just to really have Shanghai put their best foot forward and, hopefully get that first win that they are in dire need of at this point, because you don't want to be known as a team that goes 0-40. Like, that would be pretty hard to take for Overwatch League and just the fan base in particular for the Dragons.
Yeah, I mean, if they do, I will say this, if they go 0-40, Gaguri is the only safe person on. Plain and simple. Gaguri is the only safe person on that team, I think. Coaches, assistant coaches, everyone alike. I mean, anytime you go 0 in anything, it's going to be a massive overhaul. And I think you kind of put it right. Like, it's one of those things where they need to stick to a roster. They can't try and get fancy with trying to, like, let's put this person in because they work better on this map. And, well, you don't have that luxury of trying to, like, this person's slightly better on this map. Like, stick to one team. Let them work as a team, learn as a team, and go that route. Don't try and plug in players to try and get better. Because I was one of the people this week who thought Shanghai really was going to beat the Fuel. And it was a whooping. Like, Shanghai did not even good to me. Like, they just didn't even look like, they looked worse than they did the first week that they had all the new players. Like, it almost seems like they just got worse as a team together. And I think a lot of that has to do with, like, the mix and matching that they're making with their teams is, this healer's in, this healer's in, Free Kill's in, why is Sky not in? Like, it's just, it's confusing and frustrating because they have a lot of skill. They don't have a way to put it together. That could also be the language barrier. I'm not saying that's for sure, but that could also be playing an aspect into all of this. But I think Free Feel or Free Kill and 5King need to kind of ride the pine for a while. Because the support is really what's, like you said, they have the highest output in healing. That's like being number one in fourth quarter comebacks. Well, there's a reason you're leading in that stat, is because a lot of everything else is going wrong. So, yeah, they have a lot of work to do. They did not show any signs of improvement. The last week, I think it is probably going to be their best bet because they face the Mayhem. And yeah, let's just say I can't justify being a Mayhem fan after what happened this week. I just can't. I can't justify cheering for the Mayhem after what happened against the Fusion this week. So it's the next time I think Shanghai can, and everyone will be cheering for them to win that map, except the actual Florida Mayhem.
Yeah, I mean, the fan base has already been cheering Shanghai over the actual home crowd in some instances already. So, yeah, definitely they'll be the fan favorites in most situations. Now, that being said, guys, obviously we saw the introduction of Brigitte in the Overwatch League. And, yeah, this was a curious case, because basically what we saw is we had some teams come out with what they think has been working for them, and then other teams random Brigitte, and they're like, nah, dog, that's not going to fly around here. Trying to run straight dive against Brigitte has not worked for the team running the dive. So, as we mentioned, just like on ladder, we have seen a lot of triple support team compositions coming out in the Overwatch League, regardless of what, patch we're playing on, with, the Hanzo rework not being in Stage 4. And another curious thing is that we saw a lot of different players actually play Brigitte, and it was like we saw DPS players playing her, we saw support players playing her, we saw the Diva / Flex tank players playing Brigitte. It was like a wide range of people playing her, which I thought was very interesting as well, because for the most part, I felt like it would just be the off tank taking up the role, but like that wasn't always the case for every team, so that was pretty cool. And in some instances, like for Houston, for example, they had 3 players pick up Brigitte, which is another thing to note. So
you had Chiquita.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which actually was hyper aggro and looked pretty damn good.
Yeah, right? I mean, Jake Rat and Chiquita are the new 1-2 punch to fear in Overwatch League.
Absolutely. So with Brigitte, we also had basically teams that were threatening the idea of having Brigitte. So we're now entering that 4D chess, type of mindset in regards to the Overwatch League, because people know that they can't run dive against Brigitte, so it could just scare them off of Genji and Tracer outright, even if they aren't bringing Brigitte in. Because basically, whenever Brigitte's put in, it puts that other team in a position where they have to do hero swaps, whether it is 1 player, 2 players, even in some cases 3 players. Like, it is that drastic of a character where they're like, we have to change something, and we have to do it quick, because we saw teams that failed to really adjust around it, and it costed them big time. And I'm looking at you, Boston. Boston is a primary example out of that, because they dropped both series this past week because they tried to stick to running the dive composition that has been working so well for them, especially in the last stage, and they just kind of got maced to the face, they got stunned around, and that was pretty much it for their week. But all in all, like, we've seen a lot of like spam compositions coming out with Pharah, Junkrat, trying to whittle down like that more defensive approach to the game. So that's seen an increase of play. We also got to see a ton of Reinhardt paired with Zarya. So we got to see Geguri back on the Zarya that she was mostly known for before getting signed to the Overwatch League, especially when she was competing in some of these Korean tournaments like Apex. But all in all, like, adaptability has kind of been like the major storyline out of Stage 4 Week 1, because we saw some teams come in and run Brigitte straight out of the gate, some teams just not opting to run her at all. Shanghai also being kind of guilty of this as well. But, like, with this meta, there are some teams that this meta will definitely suit better than others because they're not having to run straight dive. And one of those teams would be Dallas, because Dallas in the past, especially when they run Envious, they were a better team during Deathball. And, this could open up the door where, maybe Dallas isn't going to be like a playoff team by any stretch of the imagination, but they might not look as bad as they have, at least recently, in the Overwatch League.
Yeah, no, I was surprised. Like you said, Boston just basically said, we're not going to run it. We're going to stick with dive, and we saw that bite them in the ass. And then New York is probably the only team who I saw still running dive and making it work. But that's New York, and they're that good. And then you saw a lot of people were just running Brigitte just to run her. Like the Florida Mayhem. They were just like, oh, they have a Tracer. I'm going to play her. No, that's just not like something like that. I think they brought Tavik out on her on Watchpoint Gibraltar. And I'm like, that's a horrible map regardless of having a Tracer. Like, there's so much verticality there that it's just not worth it. And they're just like, well, we're going to bring her out to try and counter, Tracer and stuff like that. Well, don't just bring her out just to bring her out. Like, you have to bring her out in the right situations. She's not like an auto every single time you have to pick her. It's you have to pick her in the right situations, and you have to know how to properly play her. And part of properly playing that her is knowing what map to play her on. So it was just some teams just seemed lost trying to play her, like Florida, and some teams really kind of excelled, like Houston and Dallas. Dallas played like, and it's odd because okay, who really doesn't have the true tracer players in the game right now? Oh yeah, Dallas doesn't have theirs, and Houston never really had one. And like they're playing with Brigitte quite well, and they're adapting to this, and they're performing well. And that's the other thing is like they're doing better in this meta because of it. And I think teams need to embrace her more because as dominant as she can be in the lower levels, she's not as dominant in the Overwatch League because they're just overall better quality players. Like Widowmaker is probably one of the best characters to play in the Overwatch League, and nobody in anything lower than Grandmaster can play a Widowmaker like they can play up there. So it's a difference in skill level. They know how to counter her and know how to play her properly, whether it's Jake playing crazy aggressive or someone like Mickey who played for the Dallas Fuel playing it like maybe not optimally but was playing, from what I saw, kind of conservative and more of a tanky style. And I think that has to do with him being an actual off tank and Jake being a DPS. But yeah, it was. I was surprised how much seeing her in the meta because she wasn't as dominant as I thought she would be. You're still seeing a lot of her, and she still has a huge impact, but she's not like Mercy stage. Almost did it. Almost called it season. As Mercy in stage 1. Like Mercy in stage 1 was an auto pick every team. If you didn't have Mercy, you were doing it wrong. She's not that dominant. And that's what I was worried about. So I like what they did with her. I like how they see her play. I worry that these nerfs will take her out a little bit in the Overwatch League because she is fun to watch still. But
well, those nerfs won't come for a while.
Yeah, till probably the stage playoffs or the grand finals. Like grand finals, I think we were talking like they might have some of the updates. So, but yeah, no, I really liked seeing it. I really did. And I was surprised I did.
Yeah, I know a lot of people were kind of like writing off this current stage just because of the whole patch that we were playing on, because a lot of people were like, okay, we want the Hanzo rework in. No, we don't want the Hanzo rework in. And then they were already just kind of like, yeah, I'm just not going to watch because we were playing on the older patch. So hopefully, seeing the amount of variety that we did see that first week, that will maybe draw some of them back in. Now, kind of going back to one of those teams that you had mentioned, so Houston Outlaws, that was a team that came in. They had a 2-0 week in week 1. They picked up wins over Boston and London, and, this is definitely kind of reminiscent to the Outlaws that we saw in Stage 1. So, obviously, Brigitte came in, she stamped her mark in the Overwatch League, and with Tracer's pick rate kind of on the decline, that opens up a pretty big door for the Houston Outlaws, who haven't always had that dedicated Tracer player like a lot of the other teams in the Overwatch League. So, they're definitely right now in a very good position to make a stronger run at that end-of-season playoffs as well as the current stage playoffs. So, yeah, they beat Boston, who, kind of like lost a lot of that momentum after they had lost that series against the Fusion. But, picking up a win over the London Spitfire, which has been a team that they've been pretty dominant over, is still pretty solid too, just because they just seem to have London's number, kind of like reminiscent of London and Seoul. So regardless of, whether or not Spitfire are on the rise or decline, Houston just took it straight to them. That was a clean series for them. And with this map pool that is very reminiscent of Stage 1, that does open up, the possibilities of seeing a lot of J-Crat. So, do you expect the Outlaws to make the stage playoffs in this case, knowing what we have seen so far? Because the way I see it, based off of what we have seen, like, there's a good chance that they can make both the stage playoffs as well as the end of season playoffs, especially if they're able to maintain the level that they have been playing at here so far.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this last week actually, about how we both kind of agreed that the Houston Outlaws were a team that we both expected to really shine when it comes to stage 4 because of the new meta, and they kind of proved it to us. Like I wholeheartedly think that they're going to make stage 4 playoffs. After what they did this week, and then I mean, who they play this week? They play New York. They'll probably no, wait, they don't play New York. They play San Francisco, and
I think they face the Gladiators tonight, if I'm not mistaken.
oh yeah, they face the Gladiators tonight, which they should win both of them. In theory, they should win both of them. And
Well,
then next week,
to that note, I will kind of put an asterisk next to the Gladiators game because there is a good chance we'll see Void in tonight. So we could see
yes.
the pairing of that Kontu Panthera tank duo of Fisher and Void, which, if that does happen, I am completely on board with the Gladiators this stage because I want to see Void in. He is an absolute monster.
Yes, but let's say they win the 2 games this week that they're supposed to. Next week they play Florida and Shanghai.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, right there, they start off with 6 wins. That alone, without even knowing the last 4 weeks of their schedule, they're gonna make the stage 4 playoffs. Because I want to say, yeah, they don't play New York until the last day. So like by then we'll already that. So yeah, I think they're gonna make stage 4, and I think they're gonna do good enough in this stage to clinch that season playoff. They're playing out of their minds right now. Everything they did seemed to work for them. They're making swaps when they need to. They're not sticking with the same 6. They're making good swaps, and they're throwing curveballs at people. I mean, like you said, 3 different Brigettas, and like, who can predict that? Like, you go into their map tonight. Okay, who's going to be playing her? Well,
Yeah, not to mention though, like out of the Brigitte play that we saw, each one of them had a different play style and approach to her as well. So that just offers like another layer to that strategy as well. So that's another thing that's going to throw people off because not everyone is going to have the same mindset to that particular hero.
Yeah, and it's gonna be interesting to see. I really like the way they look. Much better than in previous stages. And I know they made stage 2 playoffs? Stage 1 or stage 2 playoffs they made. I think it might have been stage 2. I can't remember off the top of my head. But this is the best they've looked. When you have Linkser, who's probably the best Widowmaker in the game right now. I mean, Saya Player probably is close to him. Pine is... Pine's good, but Pine has to play crazy aggressive Widowmaker. And Widowmaker is very big right now. So I think they're going to thrive. They're going to do well. They probably win at least eight maps or 8 matches, maybe 9. I can't see them losing more than 2. So, yeah, I'm a big fan.
All right, well, let's go ahead and preview some of the remaining games this week. And I know, like, we kind of switched our stream schedule for the show, but I feel like we should still just stick to Friday and Saturday, primarily just due to the fact that for the audio listeners, chances are they might not listen to it until, Thursday, which is our normal release day, or that Friday. So I'd rather just skip the Thursday games just so people are listening to something that is more current, I should say. So on Friday, we'll kick things off at 4 p.m. Pacific time, and we'll have the LA Valiant going up against the Boston Uprising. So, Edinar, we've seen the Valiants. Their consistency has been a little kind of all over the place, but they have looked stronger overall, presuming that they aren't fielding, like KSF or, people that they would normally have on that B squad. And Boston, they have been off to a terrible start at this stage. Yes, I already know the result of the Dallas Field match, and I'm not going to say who won that, but you probably already know at this point. So, Boston struggling so far. They haven't really adapted well to this current meta. Do you favor Valiant in this match, knowing that Boston is seemingly on the decline?
100%. I feel so vindicated for my trepidations about the Boston Uprising in the last stage by the way they're performing in this stage. It's one of those things where they're not shifting properly, like we saw last week. They're still trying to run dive, and dive's dead. I mean, it really is. Dive is kind of dead, and it's one of those things where they either need to adjust real quick, or they're going to get so far behind that they can't come. The Valiant have the skill. They're not consistent at all. Like, it's a matter of, we've seen them dominate really good teams, and we've seen them get destroyed by bad teams. I mean, as much as the Shanghai Dragons were not that great, aren't that great, they still dropped a map to them. Even though, they put in the B squad, you still shouldn't drop a map to the Shanghai Dragons unless you're putting in 6 players that have never played in the Overwatch League, and that's not what they did. So it's one of those things where it's so up and down, but I still think the Valiant will win. It's probably going to be a 3-1, maybe a 3-0, but I don't see it going 5 matches.
All right, well, moving on, at 6 p.m. Pacific time on Friday, we have a battle of 2 of the Korean squads when the New York Excelsior take on the Seoul Dynasty. Now, Dynasty, a little bit slow to adapt, and New York kind of on the opposite end. New York, as we mentioned on Overwatch League Network, is basically meta-proof. It doesn't matter what meta we're in, they have always played at a top level compared to pretty much everyone in the Overwatch League. Now, that being said, we had a question of, okay, well, let's say Tracer is completely out of the meta. What does that mean for Saebyeolbe? And the answer to that is Brigitte. So, if Tracer's not in, Saebyeolbe is on Brigitte. So, he still has a spot. I don't think anyone was really, worried that, okay, Saebyeolbe is going to get benched. That was never going to be the case, but I am glad that he did find a new character to flex to outside of a Zarya or something like that, which we traditionally see from a Tracer player or Widowmaker, for that matter. But when we look at this series, Seoul and New York, in regards to their approach, are more of a slower-paced Korean team. Unlike London, who is more aggressive. So, because of that, New York and Seoul are a lot closer as, say, Seoul and London. Because we already know how that storyline has kind of unfolded. So, I feel like in this one, I think right now, Seoul is still trying to figure out who's going to be playing what. Ryuje Khan has looked a little bit shaky, at least in week 1 of this stage, so I'm curious to see how Seoul is going to kind of adapt to Brigitte's introduction now that they have seen what is working and what isn't working. But regardless of that, I feel like New York is going to take this one. I think it will be 3-1. But Seoul is going to put more of a fight up against New York in this one than, say, what we're going to see on Saturday when they face London. So, it'll be a good match overall, but New York should be able to take this one. And closing out Friday, this is at 8 p.m. Pacific time, we have the San Francisco Shock going up against the Houston Outlaws. So, Shock, they 3-1 the Dynasty last week. Houston only dropped 1 map this past week, so they looked very good. So, in this one, Shock seems to have that upset potential, but Houston is looking the best that they have since Stage 1. So, how do you see this one turning out?
I had just gotten over talking about how much I enjoy the Outlaws. I do think the Outlaws Shock have surprisingly looked good. Even your boy Sinatra's looked pretty good. But what does Sinatra play? Sinatra plays Tracer.
Zarya.
Plays Zarya too.
Yes.
He plays Zarya too. But I mean, I think the Shock are a top 6 team. They're the top in the top half right now. But I think Houston's top 3 in my mind. So like it's a matter of can San Francisco take a map or 2 off of them? Probably at least one they're going to take off of them. I don't think it's going to go to game 5 or map 5. I think Houston's going to win this one 3-1. Outside chance of 3-2. But I just think the Outlaws are just playing too good as a team right now with whoever they have on, the Shield Bash Queen. Like it's one of those things where, and they're playing on some maps where I think there's verticality in these maps, but not a horrible amount. And so they have Blizzard World and still won't Blizzard World. They have Horizon Lunar Economy, which has height and stuff like that, but not crazy amounts. And same with Oasis and Dorado. I think Jakita is going to come out to play a lot on his math when he's not on Junkrat. So I think he's probably going to dominate most of the time on that. So I think 3-1 or 3-1, possibly 3-2 in favor of the Outlaws.
All right, so on Saturday, kicking things off, this is at 1 p.m. Pacific time. We have the Seoul Dynasty going up against the London Spitfire. Now, when I previewed this match on Overwatch League Network, that was on Monday night. That was before, these roster changes came into effect for London. Now, is that going to change who I think is going to win? I don't know, just because, for a while now, London has been getting the better of Seoul. And I don't know if that's necessarily going to change, regardless of who is on the field for London overall.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm still very hesitant in regards to how the Seoul Dynasty are going to look in this one. Trying to see if I can find the updated picks. Seoul is still trying to figure out what pieces are going where, and it's kind of like the same case for London as well, because they are another one of those teams that did play multiple people on Brigitte. Now, that being said, since we don't have 3 members of that Busan roster on London, that could definitely open up the door for Seoul to actually take the win in this one. But then you also have to remember, they faced New York in their first game, so that amount of preparation for a week like this is going to be pretty split, because you can't really just go in and say, okay, I'm only going to focus on this team, because both of these series are going to be particularly, hard matchup for Seoul in both cases. And I feel like regardless of who London is going to be fielding, I still feel like due to the prep time and how they're going to have to divide it, given their opponents, I'm still going to favor the London Spitfire in this one. I want Seoul to win so bad. I want them to, get this kind of, behind them, because London has had their number. And on the bright side, the last time these two teams met, Seoul came in and they won in the first map, right? They broke the map losing streak, which at the time was 16 maps against London Spitfire. So at least that's behind them. But I still feel like London is one of those teams that are in the Dynasty's head right now, and I feel like we're going to need a week where they're not also facing another Korean team for Seoul to pick up the win over London. So with that being said, I think despite the struggles, London is going to take this, and I'm going to say 3-1. I feel like if this one is going to go to 5 games, I would favor Seoul in that regard, just because London has struggled pretty mightily on control maps, but I think they're going to close it out in 4 with a 3-1 win. So I'm still hoping for the day to see Seoul stomp London, but I don't think it's going to be this week, guys, unfortunately. So moving on, at 3 p.m. Pacific time on Saturday, we have the Shanghai Dragons going up against the New York Excelsior. So, okay, let's paint a picture here, right? Shanghai, 0-32. Would the world implode if their only win comes against New York?
I mean, yes. like, I think they'll get the elusive, 7-0 win against the Shanghai Dragons this week. But I mean, I can't see how anyone thinks that Shanghai is. The only way Shanghai takes a map is if New York sits people. That's really it. It's the only way that they're gonna be able to get a map. Like hey, 6 people who haven't played this stage yet. Dang it, stage, not season. The only 6 people who haven't played this stage yet. All get in there. I know none of you are tanks, but you'll probably win anyway. Like, just go in there, have fun. Like, that's the only way I see them winning. It's the easiest 4-0 that I can predict at this point.
All right, so finishing out the week, guys, at 5 p.m. Pacific time on Saturday, we have the Dallas Fuel going up against the Philadelphia Fusion. So, I'm not going to spoil the first game that dropped today. Dallas, as we mentioned, like, this could be a meta that is going to be more in their wheelhouse. Now, Philadelphia is looking pretty good overall. I feel like this is a team that does have a very good chance at being in the top 4 for this stage. They're still kind of one of those teams that are kind of like on the bubble for end of season playoffs, but I feel like this is another one of those teams like Houston that could be in the run-in in regards to both playoffs. So with that being said, Dallas has looked better. The meta is more tailor-suited to them, but Philadelphia right now I feel like is just a different beast entirely. So I think Sato is going to come in. He's going to get those flank shatters like we saw on Oasis. And I feel like Dallas is just going to struggle against that. The space management for the Fusion has been excellent, and that's going to open up the door for Carpe and EQO. Who knows, maybe even Shadowburn. He's been right in the pine for quite a bit of time. So maybe we might even see him. I don't know, but like the DPS core of the Fusion have been doing very well, and I think Carpe is going to continue to carry them in that regard, and with Sato in, they're just going to have a hard time just dealing with that front line as well, regardless of how much space is opened and how aggressive that front line is just in nature. So I feel like the Fusion are going to come in. This is a tough one. I feel like the Fusion can take a map, but I feel like Fusion is going to take this one, and it's going to end 3-0. I think Fuel will draw one out of them, but Fusion will take it in the end. And with that, guys, we're going to go ahead and move into our community corner. So, Adenar, do you have any shoutouts this week? Or any, like, obscenities to shout at Spider after getting dropped 15-1? Anything like that?
So, all right, first off, I actually took some semi-joy in watching Spider kill me over and over again because he was wearing the skin of the Florida Mayhem that he lost to me in a bet. So I took some joy watching the kill feed and seeing that Florida Mayhem Widowmaker kill me. But no, I have a couple shout-outs. I want to give a shout-out to everyone that joined us on game night on Saturday. It was a ton of fun. I met a bunch of people. Hopefully you guys will all be back for the next one. And then, this is more of a shout-out to anyone. We have Memorial Day coming up, so this is a shout-out to anyone who may have lost somebody in military service or like that. I mean, I think mostly everyone has been affected by having someone serve the military one way or the other. In their lives. I know I have numerous times. So it's it's a shout out. It's a thank you for your service. Everyone kind of reveres it as a day to grill out, hang out, and stuff like that. But it's really a day to remember the soldiers and that we've lost in the military. So thank you to everyone who has served and everyone who helps families who serve. So that's all I have.
Yeah, kind of to add on to that, guys, if you're drinking for the holiday, please be safe out there. I mean, that's
Yes.
always something that we need to be concerned about. In regards to myself, I'm gonna shout out the same group for the next couple of weeks, just because they do have a Kickstarter going on right now, and that is Con Before the Storm. I talked about this last week. I'm gonna talk about it again. So if you're going to BlizzCon, there is Con Before the Storm. This is a community party that is free for everyone. This will be their 6th year hosting the event, and last year they had about 6,000 people show up to the event, so pretty good showing. They have a massive art gallery. They have photo booths. They have a meet and greet. We can meet like podcasters, content creators, streamers. They have esports teams showing up, and so much more. So they're trying to hit their next stretch goal, and this one in particular is a big one because, for one, they hit their first 2 stretch goals, which allows them to have a bigger ballroom. So you got like an expanded area for the meet and greet, more room for all of the art, and there's a ton of art, guys. Like if you've never seen their Facebook posts or their Twitter posts, they have hundreds of art pieces and prints like all over the walls. But the next stretch goal is the most important one, especially for content creation, because this is the one that will bring World of Podcasts back. And if you're unfamiliar with World of Podcasts, basically at Con Before the Storm, they put on multiple panels covering the various Blizzard titles, as well as just like general Blizzard. They have like a podcasting specific one. And, there are so many podcasts out there that are involved in this. Like last year, I think they had like over 60 different podcasts that were involved in World of Podcasts. And, you might have recognized some of the people that were on the Overwatch one last year because we had Slambo, my co-host from Overwatch League Network was on there. We had DJ Tyrant, who was on the Payload. Now I think he's still doing kind of his own thing right now, but he's a free agent and a great content creator. We had a Blazing Bob from Watchpoint Radio, OWL Recap, and Prepare to Attack. We had Andreas, aka I Play Games, also from OWL Recap and Omnic Lab. And it was also moderated by Chan Man Fee, who does The Overview, which is still one of the largest Overwatch podcasts out there. And really, we need to hit that next stretch goal because World of Podcasts and these panels are for everyone. Whether you're going to the event or not, this is free content for everyone. And, the Overwatch one last year was amazing. And yes, I know part of that is just because of the people that were on there. But this is something that we don't want to miss out on, and it's available for everyone. So please donate if you can. I will have a link to the Kickstarter in the show notes. I'll also link it over in Twitch chat. So I think, as of today, there's 10 days left in regards to the Kickstarter. So we're looking to hit that final goal. Help out if you guys can. And we hope to see you guys at BlizzCon. And if you're going to BlizzCon, you can definitely find a lot of the podcast crew at Con Before the Storm, so that's even more reason for you to attend if you were going. So definitely check them out, support them if you can, and hopefully World of Podcasts will be back. At least I hope so, because last year was an absolute blast. But guys, if you want to help out the show, one of the best ways to do that is to leave us a review over on iTunes, preferably a positive one. Any feedback or constructive criticism is always welcome. That will offer us insight on how we can make for a better listen experience for you guys. We do have our Overwatch League Pick'em League, which is still going on. I'll add a link to that in the show notes. You can still join and still be in the run-in for end of stage, prizes. And recently I did start Overwatch Recall. That is our podcast directory specifically for Overwatch content. So this will cover Overwatch, Overwatch League podcast, Path to Pro podcast, aka stuff focusing on that tier 2 competitive scene in Overwatch. And you can find that on our website at owlnshow.com/OWRecall. So every Sunday I release the episodic listens of that from your favorite podcast. You can find that on our website as well. And I also made a Twitter account where you can find me tweeting all about that at OWRecall. And this is going to have a podcast here shortly, so it's coming soon. Not Blizzard soon, so I would say probably within the next week or two, you will hear more in regards to that. And if you didn't catch Overwatch League Network, I'm going to, yet again, bring this up. I'm going to keep plugging it, because we want people involved in this. We have our first Overwatch League Network tournament coming up This is going to be a 3v3 lockout elimination tournament. So, we're basically, with this, expanding our community events. So, monthly tournaments are going to be held basically moving forward. So, every month we will have one game night and one tournament. And this first one will be on June 30th. That will start at 6 p.m. Pacific time. All of the matches are going to be streamed live here on our Twitch channel. And it's going to be casted by myself, Totally Drunk, as well as Slambo. We've casted some events in the past, so I'm looking forward to casting with my soulmate yet again. And we'll have some giveaways for our tournament entrants and potentially, people that are viewing the chat as well. So we'll have more details on that, but if you want to sign up, all you have to do is go to the challenge page, which you can find at challenge.com/OWLN. You can basically, register a team and sign up for the tournament. If you guys need any help with that, I can definitely help you out, but we hope to see you there, and may the best team win. Tournaments are always fun, and should be a good time. So, with that being said, Adenar, where can our listeners get a hold of us over on the interwebs and all of that jazz?
All right. Well, you can reach us by email at hndoverwatch@gmail.com. You can reach us on Twitter at @HNDOverwatch, or one of the 25 other Twitter accounts Totem has. You can watch us live on Twitch, which you should be doing right now, at twitch.tv/OWLN show. We are Twitch affiliates, so you can support the show by subscribing to our Twitch channel, unlock our network emoticons. So thanks again to everyone who's watching our shows live and interacting with the chat. If you do want to catch us live, we broadcast 3 nights a week. So Overwatch League Network is Monday at 7 p.m. Pacific. Heroes Never Dies Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Pacific. No, 5 p.m. Pacific. It's on every week. And then the back cap is Thursdays, 7 p.m. Pacific. And then host streams will be held on Fridays and Saturdays at 7:30 p.m. Pacific. So Fridays usually is Spider, Saturdays Totem. Unless we have this past Saturday was game night, so you streamed it, but that was a special event. And then you can talk to us on Discord at discord.me/OWLN show. And then we do have a YouTube channel, so Overwatch League Network. So we're getting close to our custom URL, so if you could help us out by subscribing to our channel, we'd greatly appreciate it. All our podcast episodes, top plays, and other videos can be found there. You can reach me personally on the Twitter sphere at Ednar Overwatch. And then I am starting to stream a little bit. It's not on here, but it's twitch.tv/EdnarOW. And Totem, where can they find you on the social media?
Well, you can find me over on the Twitter sphere at TotallyDrunkCTR. I do stream, not really on my channel. I mean, obviously I'm here most nights of the week. Well, at least 4 nights a week now. So if I'm live, I'll be here, guys, as you guys already know. But with that being said, guys, we're going ahead and close out the show tonight as we enter that 2-hour mark. So, we hope that you guys are going to stick around because, the back cab is actually going to be recording, in 30 minutes. So we're covering not all of them. We're covering Contenders North America, Contenders Europe, Contenders Korea, and Contenders China in regards to the Grand Finals. And obviously going over the Path to Pro news. So, we did reschedule, flip our nights, but, Ren these past couple of weeks hasn't been able to make the Thursdays, so we got, a megasode for the back cap coming in just a little bit. But if not then, we hope to see you back on Monday. And, potentially our host streams later on during this weekend. But, enjoy Overwatch League. Enjoy the event. Be nice to the free-to-play players over the weekend that are coming in.
Yeah.
Because that is coming up. Maybe this will be the time for me to actually level my PS4 account to 25 so I can do placements on console and see how terrible or godlike I am on console. It's probably the former. But you might be surprised, even though I don't really play on PS4. But that's going to do it for us, guys. Have a good night.
I have a good one.
Thank you for listening to Heroes Never Die. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at HNDOverwatch and join us on Discord at discord.me/OWLN show.